Greetings, YouTubians, and welcome back to Wayne Sharp World, where today we are taking a look at another new knife from CJRB. Just came out. It's been out for a little while now, maybe going on a month or so. So it's not like brand new, but it's still pretty new. It's really weird. You know, before I got into the knife review game, I would think like anything that came out within 6 or 7 months was new to me. Now it's like if it didn't come out yesterday, it's not really that brand new, but it's still pretty new. And what we're talking about is the CJRB Nova. Now, before I go any further into this review, I want to thank you guys for tuning in today. If you like what you see, please do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button, follow along, and I will continue to bring you the content. Now, let's take a look at some overall specs on this knife right here. We are looking at an overall length of 7.9 inches, a blade length at 3.45 inches, and a blade thickness at 110 thousandths. Blade material on this guy is AR RPM 9 steel, which you see the marking right there. Kind of hard to see on this one. We have a tanto style blade, which is probably my favorite type of tanto. We'll talk about that when we get to the blade. A very nice and slicey compound grind with a handle length coming in at 4.45 inches and a handle thickness at 384 thousandths. We are looking at G10 on the handle material with a liner lock for the locking mechanism. We have a user of a left or right hand tip-up carry, a weight coming in at 3.18 ounces, designed by Christian Porterfield, and a price at what I think is a pretty reasonable $49.99. Now, let's take a look at some size comparisons and see how it stacks up with some other knives that you probably know from CJRB and some other companies. Let's see here. Here is the CJRB Pyrite. And if you want to spend a little less, maybe like $10 less, you can get the Pyrite Lite for $39.99. And as you can see, the Pyrite Lite is a little closer in comparison. The original Pyrite warranty is slightly shorter than both of those. Let's see here. Let's go outside the CJRB realm, and let's compare it with another one of my favorites, the Civivi Sikoke. I think that should line up pretty well with it. Coming up a little short there again. What do we got here that'll line up with it more? This right here. Here is the Kaiser Escort. That should be a pretty close comparison in length. That's better. So there you go. There's your size comparisons right there. And let's get to talking about this. This is for a long time, it seemed like CJRB was like all about the Pyrite. Like any other new model didn't really get that much attention because the Pyrite was just absolutely killing it. It was by far one of the most popular knives of all last year. But now you got something like this coming into play in the Nova. And I gotta say, I do like it. There's some things about it I don't love, but overall, it's a very solid offering with a really nice blade, and the blade is really what does it for me. This blade here is just sweet. It is my favorite type of tanto. It's kind of that hybrid style tanto, combination of a Japanese tanto and American tanto. We have a nice swedge up here, which you don't always see on a tanto blade, so that's nice and cool. You got some good jimping back there. That jimping along with the swedge makes for a perfect landing spot for your thumb. And then up here towards the tip, you still have a nice distinguished tip. Sometimes the front edge of a tanto can be a little more straight up, so you don't quite have that type of a pointy tip, but you do here. This is very close to more of like a drop point style blade, but without a doubt, unarguably, definitely a tanto. But I just really, really like this shape in general. Nice and slicey. We're looking at 15 thousandths behind the edge down here on the long hollow ground flat. That is razor thin. And we also have a pretty nice and reasonable about 18 to 19 thousandths up here at the tip. So still pretty slicey at the tip, but slightly thicker up there. And just an absolute laser beam down here on the hollow ground part of the straight edge. So really, really nice blade from CJRB. Love the design. And then you get into the handle. The handle itself is just kind of okay for me. The ergos are not bad, but again, they're just okay. I like this here, but the curve here for the index finger, I feel like it keeps my hand a little farther away than from the blade that I prefer sometimes. But again, everyone's different. Like a lot of people would probably think this feels great. So again, that's definitely more just kind of personal opinion there. But I do like the fact that I can choke up here and it doesn't feel that bad. The only problem is that gap's a little bigger to where when I choke up, I kind of get my middle finger starts to kind of go into the dip for where the index would be. So it's just not like the perfect fit in my hand. But at the end of the day, it's still not a bad grip, still not a bad handle, just not quite on point for me. But again, for you and other people, it could do the trick. So take that for what it's worth. But yeah, other than that, it's a rather neutral handle. Outside of this little curve right here, I mean, it's a very neutral handle. And it's also slightly thinner than other handles too. You really notice that, 384 thousandths thick. Most knives are going to be closer to 430 to 500 thousandths. So that little bit of thinness is nice in the pocket and probably would be noticed by some people. The clip here is nothing special, but it does work. There's enough room there to go in and out of the pocket just fine. No issue there. And that's pretty much it for the handle. It's a very basic handle. The liner lock, I will say, works fine. And it looks like there's a really good bevel down there, but when you go to like actually disengage the liner lock, you gotta push a little harder than you would maybe like. Now at the same time, that also means you're having a very, very strong, secure lockup with the liner lock, which is nice. But I would almost like this to be like a little thicker and a little more like flat to where I don't feel like I'm pushing against something that's just like almost, I don't know, just flat and kind of pointy. But again, it doesn't like hurt my finger. I got to push and pry in there a little harder than I would prefer as compared to a lot of other liner locks. But at the end of the day, very doable. Not the end of the world, but worth noting there with the liner lock. Now, when it comes to the action is really, really good on this knife. But again, with CJRB is just, CJRB, Vosteed, Civivi, Kaiser, like I've said it before, those companies have action down. If you have a knife from one of those companies and it's not this good, there's probably a defect with it. There's probably something wrong because I've handled a lot from all these companies, especially CJRB, and pretty much all the action is like this. This has really, really good thumb flicking action, and it has excellent middle finger flicking action. There's something about these thumb studs. They're a little more kind of like a pointy top on the thumb studs to where these type of thumb studs for me are just perfect for middle finger flicking. Like just perfect. You can really kind of just lightly flip it out if you don't want to really whip it out. Or you can really, like I said, just kind of put your finger behind there and just rocket it out. So I really like that. I really dig it. It's a very, very satisfying action with a great blade. And again, a really solid price too, $49.99. You can't complain about that. And yeah, the ergos, like I said, the ergos for me are just okay. But all in all, the handle is not too bad. I've definitely handled a lot worse handles than this. So I would deem it as, good/acceptable, but nothing that gets me too excited. But the blade does get me excited. The blade and the action are definitely worth considering this one. I think it looks really good, and there's a few different options. I believe there's a black coated blade option. So if you don't want to have to deal with all the satin gloss for this, the satin brightness from the finish on a blade like this, you could always go with the black coated. But yeah, I really like this. I think it's a really solid offering from CJRB and priced right at $49.99. So let me know what you guys think of this Nova. Really hope you enjoyed the review. Hope you have, of course, as always, a great rest of your day. And until the next one, I'm out.